Hello, my name's Adam Conrad, founder and CXO of Great Recruiters. We are the experience management, review generation, reputation management software for the staffing industry and recruiters. I am joined here today with Matthew Kersey. Matthew, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Adam. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thank you. I always love talking to my friends at Next Move Healthcare. Let me tell you, before we get into who Matthew is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Next Move. Next Move has a 4.93 star rating, nearly 1,400 reviews, a 97% highly recommended rate. That means 97% of the people who have worked with your folks are telling their friends and recommending them. Kudos to you. I could go through and read all the reviews, but I can tell you, highly rated and being genuine, responsive, experienced, advisors, transparent, everything that candidates, healthcare workers are looking for in a recruiter. You guys embody that. So I'm just fired up to unpack and learn a little bit more about your business and learning how you guys have built a company that's so strong in culture, that's so focused on experience. But before we do that, Matthew, why don't you give everybody a little bit of insight into who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Matthew Kersey. I'm the director of operations here at Next Move Healthcare. Um, I've been with the company pretty much from the beginning. We started back in 2019. Had a pretty normal year, right? And then COVID hit. So we definitely are hit with that accelerated growth, um, and really just bounce around, having fun, engaging with our clients, engaging with our clinicians, and really starting to build a company. I personally, I started out on the talent acquisition side, so kind of a sourcing person, lead generation person, worked my way through the account management division, became the director of account management, and now the director of operations. And man, I love this industry. It's fun. We fly around, we have fun. You know, we put clinicians by the bedside to help the patients at the end of the day, which is just very fulfilling in what we do each and every day.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, we'll unpack this, but what I love is, you started very close to the beginning of COVID, and there's a lot of other companies that started around the same time that I'm hearing are closing doors. I'm hearing are shutting down operations. They don't seem to be thriving. And talking to you as we were getting ready for this, like, it's exciting, and I want you to talk about the things that you guys are doing, how you're looking for other opportunities, because although the industry as a whole is down, you aren't sitting idle. You're not just looking to survive until it gets better. You guys are finding ways to thrive, which I love, and I know the answer is it is embodied in the core values that you guys have established, right? I mean, you guys have a strong
Yep.
culture. And are solid on core values. Can you talk about those core values that kind of embody everything that you guys do over at Next Move?
Yeah, so we have four primary core values. Give Olympic level effort, right? We train like Olympians, we perform like Olympians, be a team player, right? This is not an individualized sport. It's not going to be one person that makes this company successful. It takes an entire team. Stay curious, right? If as whether you're a recruiter to an account manager to a leadership to an executive role, if you're not staying curious within your role, you're not finding other opportunities, right? You're staying idle, right? What you mentioned earlier. And then the last one is be courageous, have courage, right? Do the right thing even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so honestly, I look at those as KPIs, right, for the company. Those are culture KPIs, but at the same time, embodying those core values that we have is why we're still here today. Is what I'll tell you. So
Well, I mean, you think about it, Olympic effort, right? We're always training. Like
yeah,
Michael Phelps, who won all those gold medals, didn't say that was enough. He said, I can do better. I can do better. It's that 1% better every day. And when you have that mentality, it creates that environment of like, we're not going to ever stay the same. We're always going to move forward to the next big thing. And then, just focused on, I love the be curious, be courageous, right? Be curious. Look what's around the corner. Take that next step, take that next chance, seek to understand and have the courage to do it because it can be scary, right?
right. Well, and I'll tell you too, Adam. One of the things that I try to embody with my individual team members, right, is nothing's ever good or bad, right? Everything's good or learning, right? If you fail, that's okay, right? We're going to learn from it and move on. But if your curiosity took you down a path to take a risk and it didn't pan out, that's fine. I'm going to applaud you for taking the risk. I'm not going to
Right.
ding you for failing because you tried something out of the box, right? So,
I always say progress over perfection.
yep.
That's it. If we're taking a step forward, rather, like you said, even if it's the dead end, at least we know, hey, don't take that step again. We learned something, right? We
Right.
we know what to go. So, um, hey, the other thing that I know about you, but I want you to talk about this. We had a customer that was like, we're getting rid of all of our recruiters. We are going to be an online technology in the healthcare space. This is how we're going to win. And I think about the healthcare providers, the healthcare workers, that relationship, right? Where do relationships sit in your organization? Uh, how do you prioritize those?
Yeah. So, we have recruiters, right? People that have those relationships with those clinicians. I think it's super important that there's a human connection, right? That human connection, that dopamine hit, that kind of that satisfaction, right? When you take care of a clinician means a lot, not only to that recruiter, but most importantly to that clinician. Now, granted, I know that some of the other companies that have kind of moved that heavy tech stack, more navigators versus recruiters. Um, it works to an extent, I'm sure, right? There's a lot of clinicians that kind of want to have that self checkout model, right? If we're
Right.
comparing this to Walmart, right? You can either have a cashier, your recruiter, or you can have that self checkout, right? Um, it's funny you bring that up because one of the things that we did with changing our software this year, which I can get into later, is we created a model in which we give the clinician the option, right? So if they want a
Yeah.
self checkout option, they can lead the charge on that. They can go self checkout, right?
Yeah.
We kind of built out a fully customizable clinician portal that they can walk through and again self checkout. Hey, this is the job I want. Please submit me, right? Or we have the cashier model, right? If we're using the same analogy here, where our recruiters, if they need to walk them through, they're going to be full. They're going to be looking for those jobs every single day. They're going to be looking for that career progression for that clinician, right? We want clinicians
Right.
for life. We want those clinicians to retire with us. In order to do that, our recruiters are advocates on that front, not only just for the job that they want, but for their career as a whole.
Now, do you find I believe I love what you said. I haven't used that analogy as I was just at the grocery store last night. I that they were changing the check and I had to go into the checkout lane with a cashier. And I was like, I haven't been in this lane in a really long time. I'm getting pretty good at scanning my own stuff.
Right.
But I like that analogy because I do agree. I think there's a group of people that are like, hey, I'm good. I don't need the support. I'm going to go pick my job and it's going to be easy. And it's kind of like the way we buy products and services this day. So it makes a lot of sense. But I also know a lot of them, it's when the stuff hits the fan, man, you,
Mhm.
you want somebody in your corner. And I'm just curious, are you seeing a trend of the type of clinicians that are opting for that self-service? Is it the veterans that have just been there and done that, or is it the younger generations that are just used to self-service?
Yeah, so we're still collecting our data, right, to see who's more the self checkout versus who's more on the cashier route or the recruiter route.
Yeah,
You know, from a gut perspective, based on what I've seen in the first half that we've launched this, our veteran clinicians want that one-on-one attention, right? They want that personalized experience. They want
yeah,
that connection. They want to go retire with us, right? They
yeah,
want someone that I can pick up the phone, I can call immediately, get my situation addressed.
yeah.
And then on the opposite end, right, the younger generation is going more towards that self checkout model. Now, granted, even when they do the self checkout model, they're still having that recruiter, right? They still have that one on one if they need it. But we are seeing a bigger trend on the younger generations using that self checkout model than our veterans, right?
Yeah,
So, and I think a lot of that is just due to the technology, right? There's the age of technology that is just, I mean, almost 100x over the last 5 years, in my
right,
opinion. And the younger generation can usually adapt to it pretty quickly, and they also love like, right? We could bring up to texting and phone calls, right? All those veterans, they want those phone calls. The younger generation,
right,
we just want to text. That's it,
right.
right? So you can kind of compare that self checkout cashier model to also how they communicate as well.
Yeah, that's so smart. I was thinking about that. Like, people are going all in on one end, people are going all in on the other end, which is fine. I'm not arguing that there aren't market share to be had on both ends. But I always thought it's the build your own story, right? It's the book of
Yeah.
choose your own adventure, right? It's go as far as you want down the rabbit hole until you need to raise your hand and you want somebody to help you, right? Everybody has a different need. It is not static on when I feel I need someone to follow up or someone else. So I love the fact that you've implemented something that gives your clinicians the tools to be able to have that human to human engagement when it's needed for them
Yep.
versus forced on them, and allow them through that technology. So how is that? That is just one example, I think, of what you've done to try to thrive in this environment. Because let's face it, healthcare recruiting looks a lot different today than it did 2 years ago. There's a lot of companies that are struggling big time, that started up, that spun up, but you guys just continue to try to innovate and find other ways. Can you talk about some of the other things that you have focused on to help set you up for that success in the future?
Yeah. So, the easy answer I'll give you is right. It comes down to two core things that we did really well. Pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and post-pandemic, which is build and sustain those relationships with our clinicians, build and sustain those relationships with our clients. Ultimately, all
Yeah.
the work that we did over the last 4 years has helped us sustain through the tough times. From what I would consider more from our production level, right? Or like, how do we get out of that cycle, right? Of kind of being in a rut in this industry to now thriving. I think really for us, it boils down to 4 different focuses. The new technology that we're utilizing this year, which I'll get into that. Obviously, we're consistently increasing our engagement. Collaboration with our peers in the industry is our third one. And then kind of that intern to recruiter program I've also talked about kind of helps gear up those people to add to our sales power.
Yeah.
Right. So with our new technology, that gave us a lot of opportunity. So we, like I said, we switched to Target Recruit, gave us a lot of opportunities to fully customize our reports, fully customize our analytics, create our clinician portal, right, to give that self checkout, our full checkout, with the cashier model, and ultimately, at the end of the day, increase bandwidth for our team. Right, you mentioned earlier that recruiting now looks a lot different today than it did during COVID. Right, there's a lot more energy, right, to get the same output that we used to get. So, especially when it's our recruiters, our salespeople on boots on the ground, giving them more bandwidth, giving them more capacity, making their processes more efficient, more effective, ultimately allows us to continue to thrive. Because if you stay stagnant, you're not going to live for very long, right? The company's going to start to go down. So we've got to continuously improve and pivot with that technology. I think the other piece too is it kind of goes hand in hand with our technology, but increasing our engagement. I know that this is preaching to the choir for most staffing agencies, right? But if you're not consistently reviewing your messaging, right, with what your recruiters are sending out, it doesn't matter if you've had a recruiter for 10 years or you've had a recruiter for 1 month, right? If you're not consistently reviewing that message, how you can curate a better experience for that clinician, you're only doing a disservice to your team.
So explain this to me. This might seem like a loaded question, and it might seem like a very obvious answer, but I don't think everybody has that same height of a sense of how important each relationship is, how important each experience. Why at Next Move? What have you seen? Because you get somebody on the phone, they're the center of the universe, right? And that's the way they feel, and that's the way you want to treat them, and you want to create that great experience regardless of outcome. And you guys have maintained that kind of process, from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you bring up relationships a lot. How is that? Because a lot of companies were like just shooting fish in a barrel, boom, 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 right? We're just putting people in. There was very little very little thought in that because they were just moving around, but you guys still focused on the relationship. How is making that investment day over day over day? How is that paying off for your organization?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll tell you is consistency compounds, right? Being consistent compounds and creates a huge positive impact for us. Even during the pandemic when everything was, uh, you know, chaotic, for lack of better terms here, I think it's a culmination of a couple things. One, we made such an emphasis on creating raving fans, right? So a lot of times we talk about if we want our clinicians to be frustrated they can't give us 6 stars, right? That's the mentality, that's the relationship we're trying
Yeah,
to create here.
I think you guys asked us to add an extra star for you guys. 5 stars wasn't enough.
At least give us the option, man. But yeah, the core of what we've done, right? The consistency and the core of what we've done of creating raving fans has not changed, right? So again, whether we're talking about the pandemic or post-pandemic, if you're not creating that raving fan of that clinician or that client, right? But especially our healthcare providers, why would they choose you, right? That you want them to have a great experience. The other thing I'll tell you is, and it's interesting what I found out is when there's a problem, right? A clinician if it's a clinical concern, if it's just, hey, I really don't think this is working out for me. Hey, I want to invest in myself. Like, is there any CEUs I can take, right? The big question is like, when there's a problem, what do you do, right? The thing I have found out is typically when a clinician has a problem and we're able to address that, my goal is always to address those concerns within 24 hours. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how big or how small it is, if not sooner, right? Sometimes we can get questions addressed or problems addressed in 5-10 minutes, right? Our speed to punch in solving those problems for our clinicians is what enhances that relationship, what continues to have that raving fan. And honestly, what I'll tell you, man, is like we have better retainment on clinicians that have had problems that we solve quickly than clinicians that don't have any problems at all, which is crazy to me. But it works.
Is it
man.
crazy? See, I agree. It's not though, because people don't expect perfection. People want somebody there that's with them that helps support them in the tough times. And they find a company that's willing to do that and does it consistently. Why would you want to leave? You're going to have problems everywhere. Right. No matter where you go, there's nothing that's going to be perfect. And I think that's a public service announcement, Matthew, that I think is important to say. Like, your negative, I believe the negative feedback, the bad experiences are more powerful than all the positives. There's 10 times more you get out of it. And here's the reason why. You learn from it, you grow from it. You sometimes have to have uncomfortable conversations. You come to a pool of shared meaning, but you make that connection stronger, right? If you approach it in that way of, hey, that's not the experience we wanted you to have. You obviously had it. What can we do? And let's come together to figure it out. When you have that conversation, I'm not surprised that they're like, why would I want to go anywhere else? I know if I have a problem, they're going to take care of it.
Yeah. And you and I both know, there are some things that in our industry that we can't control, right? And we've got to be ready to be on the jump at any given moment, any given time. And again, the longer that problem persists or the longer that problem stays out there, the less that person's not going to be a raving fan. They're like, why is it taking so long to get it resolved? Right.
Right.
Like, am I not important? Am I not valuable to your organization? Right. So full circling that back to, we create raving fans and there's multiple ways that looks, right? Whether it's a problem, whether it's maybe someone does a perfect assignment and they loved everything about it and they continue, they extend and they retire with us. Right. Which is great, but things are always going to happen, right? So your speed to punch on solving those problems as quickly as possible, make sure that one, that clinician feels valued, right? Most importantly, and two, that helps with retainment, right? That creates that's another level of creating a raving fan out of that clinician.
Yeah. No, that's great. So talk to me a little bit about with Target Recruit, how are you using great recruiters now? Because I know that allowed you to really expand a number of things that you were doing. And I don't know if we're there yet, but I'm just curious, where is great recruiters sitting in your process today? What have you found as far as best practices, as far as collecting feedback at those meaningful moments? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we did end up integrating great recruiters into our software. One thing I'll tell you is when we talk about speed to punch, right? Speed to punch is the most critical thing in this industry,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Whether it's getting offers, whether it's solving problems, etc. But the other thing I'll tell you is, when we can generate referrals, right, using the Great Recruiters software, and that immediately goes into our system, our recruiter can get right to it, right?
yep,
That's again that
yep,
speed to punch,
yep.
because if that clinician is referring another clinician to you, and that clinician is probably saying like, "Hey, I've shared your information with Next Move," they're going to be reaching out to you, and they reach out in 5 minutes, 30 minutes tops. They're gonna be like, "Oh, these people are like, they know what they're doing. Like they're quickly responding. They're getting to me quickly. They're getting me set up. I
Yeah,
enjoy this. Let's get this rocking. Let's get this rolling." Right.
yeah,
So again, I think that speed to punch and having it integrated works really well. In terms of like overall best practices, I mean, we use great recruiters for our recruiters in multiple levels of the process, right? We just got 2 reviews this week for Madison, both 5 stars, fantastic comments on it. They didn't get placed, right? They ended up taking other assignments, other offers, but they still provided a 5 star feedback because she did such a great job. And I know because of that experience they had, they're going to come back into the funnel right after this
well,
next
and
assignment. So,
depending on what her experience was, sometimes you don't have the job, right? And it's like, if I want the job, I'm going to go
yeah,
where the job is. But when my friend says I'm looking, they're not necessarily referring to the recruiter that got the job. They're referring to the person that took care of them,
right.
right? And that relationship
Exactly.
is never going
Exactly.
away. But I love to hear that,
Yeah.
because one of the biggest misnomers is, well, if we don't place them, we're just going to get a negative review. And it's like, no, because they're smart enough to understand this isn't about the outcome. It's about the experience. It's about how they're treated. It's about how they feel through the process. So I love that you share. She got 2 5-star reviews for somebody she never placed, that is probably a raving
Mhm.
fan, that is probably sharing her profile with her other clinician friends, right? And
Yep.
there's going to be opportunity in the future. Who
Yep.
else other than your recruiters? Where else are you using it in the organization?
Yeah. So compliance, we kind of, as we did the software transition, we kind of pulled that down a little bit to kind of get everything squared away. We still had the recruiter rating, or sorry, feedback for them, but we kind of pushed that down. We just relaunched our compliance feedback because we know that is every clinician. It's a pain point, right? Payroll and
Yeah,
compliance are typically pain points for clinicians, but I'm a huge proponent in like getting feedback. More importantly, doing something with that feedback, right? There's a
right.
lot of times in my experiences where we go get feedback, right? Not us. I'm not in this organization, because I do pride us on taking that feedback and like going and making
Right.
changes and finding solutions to it. But getting that feedback and making actionable changes that help benefit the clinicians. What can we work to do better, right? Um, the other way we utilize it as well is the facility reviews, right? We want to hear from
Mm,
our travelers. We want to hear how their assignments are going, because for myself and our account team, that's a great talking point with our partners, our MSP, VMS, and some of our direct clients. That's a great talking point. Like, hey, we got some feedback from some travelers. Here's what they had to say, right?
yeah.
And then
How is
also,
the
in
facility?
turn,
How is that going for you guys as it relates to, like, are you surprised the type of feedback that the nurses are or clinicians are providing on the facilities? Is it eye-opening?
it can be, right. So because we pitch both the good feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? We don't
Right.
hide anything. We pitch it all,
Yeah.
because we think it's important to celebrate them when like they're being traveler friendly. They open up their arms and kind of embrace them as one of their own. But sharing the bad and the ugly, my goal at the end of the day, and I would hope this is the goal for most staffing firms, in regards to our MSP partners, to our facilities, we're just here to make healthcare better, right? We provide clinicians with a raving fan experience, so they go provide a raving fan experience to their patients, right? We want to change healthcare on multiple levels, not just the clinician experience. Again, clinician experience is at our core, but we want to make this a movement in which we change the dynamic of healthcare and make it a more positive experience for the patients, the facilities
Yep.
themselves, and everybody that works in this industry.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit. I appreciate that, because I
yeah,
think it's, because here's the deal. This isn't about great recruiters. We're a platform. we're built for what you want to do, but it's the fact that you want the feedback, you want the raving fans. Like there is a top level leadership that's driving this. We're simply the vehicle that's helping move it, right? I mean, we're not making you raving fans. You want to be raving fans. We're enabling that feedback loop. It's like I say, you can buy the gym membership, but it's not going to make you stronger. You got to go to the gym. You got to learn how to use the equipment. You got to, maybe you need a trainer, right? So I love that you've embodied this and taken it and made it part of your culture and your organization and all you do. But how do you, um, it's been tough, right? There have been layoffs. You don't need to talk about any specific stuff, but it is happening across the industry. How are you maintaining a positive engagement and growth, and how are you continuing to invest in the team you have and recognize them for the work that they're doing? Because I hear they're getting a lot of at bats. They're just getting less hits right now. So the hits are a little bit more spread out than what they may have been used to the last few years. What are you guys doing to help keep that energy, that positivity rolling, and what are you doing to help continue to invest in the long-term success of your recruitment teams and other employees?
Yeah, so I'll kind of break this down in two categories. One is kind of how are we motivating, right? How are we um, developing our recruiters? How are we giving them the new tools and resources needed to to enhance their ability, enhance their skill set? And the other section kind of being more culture, right? What are we doing on the culture level to keep people
Yeah.
motivated, to keep people engaged? Which I think also kind of plays a part in like how do you retain your employees, right? Obviously, retainment is a huge factor in this industry with our clinicians. It's also one of the most important factors for your employees, right? Um, I always love this the quote, if you don't take care of your employees won't take care of your business, right? Um,
I always say if you don't take care of your employees, somebody else is going to take care of them for you.
right, exactly. So exactly. So yeah, let me start with that first piece, which is, how do we recognize, how do we reward, how do we kind of get that motivation up? Um, so I will say, we kind of play a fun little game with those 5-star reviews. It's called King and Queen of Social, right? So think of King of the Hill, right? So just to give you an example real quick, if you have if you have a review come in, let's say right now, right? It's 10:52 a.m. CST here. You have a review come in. Our marketing director immediately gets a post out on all social media channels, recognizing that recruiter. If I get a review at 11:15, so in 20 minutes, I take the spot, right? They get taken down, I take the spot, right? So we kind of play this king and queen of the hill type mentality with these reviews, which makes it a fun little engaging game.
That's good.
But also definitely keeps, again, as many reviews as we've gotten, it keeps our marketing director quite busy. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I'll say on that is, it's also, we think it's such an important piece to our culture that it's actually a metric. So like how many 5-star reviews they have is a metric for recruiter of the year. That we celebrate at the end of the year, right? In our annual Christmas party. And that has a nice little bonus to it. So it's definitely something that they fight for, right? Each week, trying to create those raving fans, trying to get as many 5-star reviews. Going into more of the retainment of those, like the motivation, the retainment of those employees here, I kind of go back to what I was telling you about the solving problems for clinicians, right? With this new technology that we launched this year, there's a lot of kinks to work out. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But each day we were constantly solving. We had a whole change request sheet, right? Hey, every employee, if you've got a problem, go put it on there. We're going to go solve it. We got this solved as quickly as possible to make the system as, again, we're always going to be optimizing the system, right? But we're going to consistently continue to address those problems, those changes as quickly as possible, because that makes that employee feel valued, that they're heard. And ultimately, this fix that we're providing, the solution we're providing, helps increase their bandwidth, help increase their efficiency. Now they feel heard and they're doing a better, they're able to do a more efficient job with that solution.
Right.
And then, ultimately to end on it, kind of talking about the culture, right? During COVID, pretty easy, right? You're saying less at bats now, right? But during COVID, everyone was hitting 700, right? 800, 900.
Better than that. Grand
So
slam, 700s, free
right,
bases.
we had people winning multiple times a week, every single week, consistently, right?
Right.
So the culture is pretty easy. High bill rates, increased clinician demand, life was good. Post, yeah, it's been harder, right? And I would say that a strong culture has to be the emphasis of your organization, because in my opinion, a strong culture creates strong employees, which creates a healthy organization.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's at the core of what we do. Culture is important to us, and also it's one of those things where, again, man, I guess I just go back to when an employee has a problem or a clinician has a problem, your speed to punch in solving that or providing a solution, makes them feel valued, makes them feel heard.
That's great.
So I think that's what ultimately motivates them, right? Like, I know if I've got a problem, I can go to Matt, we're gonna get this solved quickly, and I can get on with my day, right? Instead of worrying about that outcome of that potential, situation. So
yeah. Well, Matthew, this has been amazing. We've come up on time. I mean, I've got about 30 other questions I can ask, but what I love and what I was impressed from the beginning, when you guys were first starting off, when I first met John Nolan, was his focus on the end, beginning with the end in mind and establishing the core values, the processes, the importance of those relationships, knowing that extra time, dedication, focus was going to pay off in the long term. And it sounded like it's doing a great job. And, we're just really happy to be part of the supporting a great organization. We don't make organizations great. We certainly can help those who want to be, but you have to want to be great. And then we can really help facilitate a lot of it. I love the fact you're investing in technology. You're looking at the market to understand that, hey, there's different people out there that want different experiences. And how do we create a system that makes it very easy for everyone, whether they want, the white glove service or they want the complete self-service. Just give you guys a lot of credit for staying ahead and innovating, and all of it, I know, boils down to making sure that you have the right people on the right seats on the right bus, right? That's the cultural fit. That's the core values, hiring the core values, and just give you guys a lot of credit, man. I'm excited to see, I've watched the last 4 or 5 years, and I love where you guys are going. I'm excited to see and be part of the growth here in the future. But just wanted to, congratulate you guys on being named top-rated healthcare staffing firm for the first half of 2024. Your reviews are amazing. I mean, there's no doubt. And if you're having competition to say who can get the best 5-star reviews, these aren't fake, right? These are people having to create great experiences to elicit those 5-star reviews. So you're putting a contest that just supports. It's fun, right? It's fun, and it feels good to get that feedback. But none of this would happen if they didn't have great leaders in the organization like yourself driving these things. So kudos to the work that you're doing, and just really appreciate you joining me here today.
Yeah, no, Adam, I appreciate the time. And again, I appreciate also the just true partnership that we have between Next Move Healthcare and great recruiters. Having the right people on the right seats on the right bus is important. It's also making sure we have the right partners too with us, to take along the journey with us. So no, appreciate the time. Thanks for giving me a platform to kind of speak today, and just always appreciate talking with you. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. Well, go out there and be great. Do something great today. Go out and make a decision to be great. Help somebody out. Drive a great experience. Build relationships for life. Maintain that focus. And I believe that any recruiter that does that will have a tough time not having great success. So here's to the rest of 2024. Again, Matthew, congratulations on all the you guys have accomplished. And that's all we have for today. Everybody have a great rest of your week. Take care.